Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a beautiful reel that Bobby from Colorado has sent in. This one is the Penn Mariner number 9. This one is in excellent condition. He just asked me to go through it, service it, and keep it fishing. So a couple of interesting things on this one. It's an older reel. It has a etched side plate to it with the raised letters. It shows a trolling boat or two out in the water. And it's got a very narrow frame. This is a trolling reel, and this is designed to prevent frame twist. The other unique feature on this reel is it's got a double eccentric. The first one down here controls the drag on and off for fighting fish. So this is in the off position. You're able to turn the reel backwards to fight a fish manually. And when you put that on, it engages your anti-reverse. You can hear that loud click. And, well, you can fight it with the use of the drag. The other eccentric, well, that's for the free spool. So if you forward that, you can let the line out. And when you close it off, you can gather the line. Well, we're going to take this apart. There was a lot of requests when I previewed the reels that they would like to see it. I believe there is another video in here in my library on it, but it never hurts to do another one. That way, well, I'd like to think I'm getting better as I do more of these. Maybe this one's a little bit clearer. Sometimes I choose to accentuate some points that maybe I missed on the other video, and so it's a good opportunity to just well, provide additional information to you and to show you how to repair the reels, keep them fishing for a long time to come. If you like these type of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use that notification button. That will let you know when I'm posting videos, and well, you can choose whether you want to watch that one or not. Just finished a freshwater video on a very small reel. Now I'm at a very large saltwater reel, so I get all kinds of reels in here. I removed the handle by removing the handle screw and the set screw that holds that in place. I just used my oiler to use that little oil port there to oil the knob. I'm going to take one more piece off before I remove the side plate. That is the star adjuster. Star adjuster comes off in a counterclockwise manner. You'll notice it's got a recess. That's so that it kind of keeps the water out of that main. And you'll notice that there's a little tag number on here, 10-49, which is the part number for this. And this is the 49 reel. But you'll find that that star adjuster does go on other reels. I don't think this reel's ever been fished. I'm just looking at it. There's no accumulation of dirt or any kind of debris on the gear sleeve. And now we'll remove the 8 screws that hold this together. There are 6 screws that hold the crossline bars in place, and there's 2 screws that connect the reel seat. I know from experience, but we'll mention it here, you want to make sure as you remove the screws that you note the length of the screws and the location of the screws. In this case, 6 of these screws are going to be longer than 2 of those. The ones that go into the reel seat are traditionally shorter screws. And, well, you just want to notice that, because if you put the long screws where the short ones go, they hang out and they could catch the line. I'll show you one here. We'll take this off, and you'll see that it's a smaller screw than the other. Well, there's 2 more screws to remove here. That's the bottom one. And these screws, again, don't show any evidence of ever having this reel fished. So this is an interesting reel. The reel hasn't been made in some time now. I'm going to guess 20 years. So this is what would, I guess, be called a very nice, excellent condition reel. I don't think you can call it new old stock. Doesn't have the box and the like. But this one probably would command the highest price should you go to sell it. When I remove my pieces and parts, they go into a parts tray. There's a clump of grease on there. That's for me to organize so that as it comes time to reinstall, I know where the pieces and parts are. Yeah, this one hasn't been fished at all. That's a brand new internal. So this is a good one to show you how to service the reel because, well, you'll see how it basically has just kind of lived by itself. There is a counterweight on this. There was some old grease that probably was shipped originally, and I think that's kind of what Bobby's asking for here, is kind of make it what it should be. So a little bit more grease onto the axle shafts, and a little bit of grease into that side bearing. Once you do that, you put it right back in place. Of course, these are big parts. They don't need to go into the parts tray. We'll just set that off to the side. What makes this one different from the other Penn wheels is you have a double eccentric here. Take a picture before you get busy on servicing the reel. Make sure you notice how these setups are. Double eccentric, this is your anti-reverse dog. The rest of the reel is going to be fairly straightforward to the Penn design. You have the bridge, the jack, the eccentric, a yoke and a pinion gear, a main gear, and well, not much more underneath there. This is a big reel, has a big bridge, but Penn kind of stayed consistent with all of its design on most of the reels through the, well, from the time they got started in the late 30s right up through kind of switching over to a more modern design, probably in the early 2000s. But everything in between, it's essentially, if you can figure out how to service the one, regardless of what it is, a Long Beach, a Baymaster, a Mariner in this series, a Jigmaster, they're all pretty much following that same mechanical design. And that's good for service because, well, when you learn to service one of them, you can service many of them. Alright, there's 4 screws. I'm holding the bridge on in the back here. There's 4 screws. That's the last of them. Like we were saying before about the sizes and that, you want to note that 2 of these screws have a partial thread and 2 of the screws have a full thread. The partial screws are going to go through the bridge and where the spring is located for the yoke. Those would be in the top holes here. So be aware of that as you go to make that reinstallation. I'm going to cup my hand. There's a spring. It's a flat spring under here. We don't want to lose that. So I'm going to cup my hand, turn the side plate over. When I return this way, I'm going to find that flat spring that, well, you don't want to lose that or shoot it because it's commonly not available. Here is your reverse dog, big gear. We're going to remove the entire stack and we're going to push out the pin to remove the gear sleeve here. Hopefully it's not, there we go, it's cooperating. There's a pin that holds this to the bridge. Push it out, then you generally can leave it like that. And that's so that we can clean up all of that old grease there and on the shaft. Okay, with that cleaned up, inspect it just to make sure that it's nice and tight and clean. And we can go right back on, put some grease on there. Since that there was a little bit of dirt, I want to take a cotton swab, or in this case a Q-tip. I can actually call it a Q-tip. Run it on the inside of that gear sleeve. Well, that one wasn't dirty at all. Sometimes you will find the dirt in there, and of course you want to make sure that that's all removed and cleaned as you do that service. Once you do that, you can push that pin back in. You need to make sure on this that if that pin is not all the way in, clearing that shoulder, that you get it in. Otherwise, when you go to put that main gear on, it's not going to work. Well, yeah, this further evidence that this has not been disturbed is that the drag washers, which are sticking together, are essentially new. And the reason that they're sticking together is the original greases, they dried up and they acted as a glue. Take something like a 4-0 steel wool, just come in and buff off the part that got stuck to the metal washers. And I keep this steel wool handy. It's not abrasive. It's abrasive, but it's not a hard cut kind of a steel wool that you would use. This is 400000 It's kind of an ultra fine. It's used for buffing and polishing. I want to make sure I do that on all of these metals because, well, they all have evidence that the drag washers have stuck on. Well, while I'm doing this, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, just leave those questions in the comment section. I do try to answer them, and I do try to answer them in the mornings of the day following when you were asking that question. So just be patient. I do try to get to them. I have a pretty good record of responding to them. All right. I'm just going to leave the washers off to the side for a moment. I want to take a hard bristle brush and pull through on the main gear. I do notice that there's a little bit of shellacked, dried grease on there. And we're going to take care of that right now. Pull through on it. Beautiful. I believe that's a stainless gear. And we'll start the reassembly of this by putting some fishing reel grease. I use Penn Precision reel grease. That's the blue grease. Put some fishing reel grease onto the main gear. Set the main gear onto the gear sleeve. And now we can install the drag washers. These are a fabric washer. You don't want them to dry out, so I'm using another fishing reel grease. This is called Cal's Universal Drag Grease. If you don't have it, you don't need to run out and get it. Just use your regular fishing reel grease. There's two of these round washers that are rectangular in the center. Actually, one is thinner than the other. The thin one goes in first. We'll repeat that process with this drag washer. Again, rub it in. These are porous, and when they start to dry, they lose the grease, and then they stick to the washers and you lose your drag. The middle washer is called an eared washer. It has 2 points on it. They fit in the slots in the main gear. And this is a hard washer, so it doesn't need to be greased. It's non-porous, so it won't absorb the grease if you try to put it on. The thicker of the two keyed washers goes up top, followed by a little cap washer. I'm going to just move some of this stuff out of the way now. That is the service of your bridge. We're going to service the jack and the pinion gear. I'm going to start by removing the jack. I noticed that this spring is kind of blocking me here. I'll go into my parts tray so I don't lose that. Push down on your yoke. Boy, everything wants to jump out of this reel. I guess it's been constrained for some time now. Not been moved. So I apologize, but I've got to step off camera here for a moment to grab that jack that just popped out. Normally, when you're doing the servicing on this, you certainly want to clean up the old dried greases. And if you find it stubborn, go back and use that steel wool. These are brand new, so to me this reel has never been used. The shellacking is just evidence that the grease is dried in place. We'll do the same thing on the pinion gear here. We're going to use that bristle brush to pull through. You should check the teeth, make sure that they're all uniform, that they're not chipped or broken at all. And most of this grease is just plain evaporated. This side plate is about as clean as you're going to get. And with that, we can start the reassembly. We're going to take the two springs that go in the cavities there. Those are yoke springs. Those are the ones where your partially threaded screws are going to go through. We can take a little brush full of grease and put it onto the side plate bearing and around the rim of that. That'll enable your pinion gear to slide through easily. Next up, we're going to take the yoke. Call it the yoke because, well, it looks like an oxen yoke. Grease on both sides where we wiped out the old grease. That sits in the slot of your pinion gear. And then I use an artist's brush here, but we're going to use a brush to Just kind of brush on some grease into the teeth of the pinion gear. This sits on top of the post, that's that bearing, and centers on the springs. Push that down, and then take the jack, bring it around, and it sits under that stud there, and with the stud coming through the groove here. So that's how it sets up. Now we have our bridge, and the bridge of course requires that anti-reverse dog to be set and the spring. So your dog is going to go this way with that tail end down. This is your spring, and we'll show you how to set that as we put this in. Push down on your yoke, insert your main gear, and turn your bridge plate to hold that yoke in place. Find one of the two fully threaded screws. Bring that up through that side plate hole. This sits this way with the rounded arc piece outside. Bring that up like that. And then our spring goes on top of the dog and into the channel in the side plate. So that's the way that the spring sets, on top of the dog, around this point, onto the curve. Once you do that, rotate the bridge the rest of the way, center up the hole, and turn that screw a couple of times. Don't fully tighten it down, because you're going to have to set the other screws. Just get it started to hold that assembly in place. Okay, when you do that, I like to go in opposite directions. So I'm going to take a partially threaded screw. You'll see the spring through the hole there. That's where that screw belongs. We'll get that started. Now that should line up with the hole in the bridge. If you're having trouble, if it's not starting, just turn it over and make sure that it's coming through the hole. Let's go to the bottom one there for the fully threaded screw on this side. And again, none of these are being tightened down fully because there needs to be a little bit of play in that bridge just to make sure that you get all four of those started. Once you do, like there, now let's just repeat the process. We'll just go on that X pattern again, and we'll make sure that they're fully tightened this time. If you like, you can control your override now and see how that's working. And that seems to be doing what it should be doing. On the eccentrics, you can put a drop of oil where those springs go in. That'll get you into the back end of the eccentric. We'll take our sleeve and our star adjuster. And we'll lock that down before we... Okay, my battery just ran out, so let's make sure that we captured that last little bit. I just installed the bridge sleeve and then the star adjuster here. Now I'm going to add that back onto the reel. Make sure that you have the holes properly aligned. I like to set it in free spool. It pulls the piece back. And remember, these screws now, we have 6 long ones. What I'm looking for right now is balance as I install the side plate screws. By that I mean I want to keep the torsion equal. And sometimes when you kind of do it in a round method, in other words, just keep going in a circle, sometimes the reel doesn't set properly. You get some torsion in there. So what I like to do is kind of go northeast, southwest with the first set of screws, and we can fill in the blanks there. For example, here you can see that already there's a little bit going out of play there. All right, let's put this one in. And I'm going to take one on each side, the east and west, and we'll come back and we'll fill in the blanks. So it's a beautiful reel, and Bob, I thank you for sending that in, and I enjoy working on these, but I get more enjoyment out of knowing it's getting a second chance, and whether this is going to be displayed to show the fine American craftsmanship in this one, or if it's going to be used, we'll know that it's ready for use at any time should you decide to put it on a pole, take it fishing. Now I did notice from Colorado, I'm curious, I don't know many land sharks up that way. I'd be curious to understand if it is being fished in Colorado and what you're going for. I guess it could be. You could use it for big catfish or something, I guess. But generally speaking, these are ocean-going trolling reels as depicted on that scene of the etched side plate. Alright, as I'm going through these, I'm also tightening down that first screw that I put in place, just to make sure that it's right. And I'm still missing one here. And we've saved that last short screw for the bottom on the reel seat. Go ahead and do that right now. Time to put the handle back on. Now that star adjuster still has to be tightened down. I'm going to use the handle as a wrench to do that. That'll tighten this down. Now normally if you didn't take that bridge sleeve off, you would put a drop of oil where that hole is, where your little screw cap says oil. Right there, oil. But since I've taken that off and put the grease on there, no need to put the oil in there. Okay. Hand thread these. Do it as much as you can. That way you don't risk cross-threading those internal threads. And I use an aftermarket Penn wrench. It's an Allen Tanny wrench. If you don't have it, use the one that came with it. You don't need to rush out and get it. If you work on a lot of Penn reels, this is a thicker one with a longer arm that makes taking that screw off a little bit easier. But again, you don't need it. If you want it, I believe it's available at mysticparts.com. Alright, let's put this down. Make sure our drag is tight. I'll take off my glove because I'm transferring some of the oils in that now. Let's do a quick little cleanup of this. Let's give it that final test. So right now we are in anti-reverse mode. You can hear that click, 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 so we've installed that properly. We're in free spool, so that's casting mode. That spins nice and free and easy. Look at that piece of American technology and engineering. Just a beautiful, smooth turn. Let's go into gather mode, as expected. And let's go into override mode where we can backpedal the reel. So this reel is fully functioning the way it was designed. And the only thing I encourage you to do once you're done servicing the reel is back that drag washer off. You don't want to use that to compress those washers down and have them stick to the washers like you saw earlier. Okay, that's it. That's how to service the Penn Mariner number 49 fishing reel. I hope you've enjoyed that. Again, if you like these types of videos, please subscribe. And before we leave, I want to take a minute to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, and rescue for everything it is that you do. I truly appreciate your career choice and dedication to service. I also want to take a moment to thank all of our channel subscribers and everybody watching today. I want to wish you great days on the water, fast friendships with fishing, and, well, if you're into the art of reel repair, success in all of your endeavors. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.